I was halfway out the door when her hand stopped me. Just her fingers, light, deliberate, catching my arm. Enough to halt every thought, enough to turn me back. She didn't grip me hard. She didn't have to. Her voice followed, quiet, almost reluctant. Stay. It was the way she said it. Not commanding, not pleading, something in between. Like she hadn't planned to say it, like the words slipped out before she could cage it. I turned, and there she was. She leaned against the counter, wineglass untouched beside her. Her posture was casual, but her eyes weren't. They held me longer than they should have, long enough that the silence between us thickened. She was older, 10, maybe 20 years older, but the kind of older that made you forget the number. Poised, unshaken on the outside, though I kept catching flickers of something else beneath it. I'd been telling myself all evening that I should leave before it got complicated. But then, her hand, her voice. And now the space between us wasn't safe anymore. Her fingers slipped away, slow, almost reluctant, and left a warmth pressed into my skin. I should have moved toward the door again. I didn't. You were leaving, she said, more like a reminder than a question. Was, I answered. My voice came out lower than I meant, rougher. Her lips pressed together in a shape that wasn't quite a smile. She tilted her head, studying me like she was deciding whether to say more or nothing at all. That silence stretched again, and I found myself noticing everything I shouldn't: the faint line at the corner of her mouth when she half smiled, the delicate tremor in her exhale, the way her hair framed her face in a way no accident could manage. She looked away first, toward the glass on the counter. It's late, she murmured, though she didn't touch it. Her hand stayed close to her side, fingers twitching like she'd almost reached for me again, but thought better of it. I wanted to answer, but the words tangled. Instead, I took a small step closer. The air shifted. She noticed. Her shoulders tightened, just barely. You don't have to, she said, eyes flicking to the floor, then back up to me. I mean, if you need to go. The contradiction hung between us. She was giving me permission to leave, even after asking me to stay. And I realized then that maybe she wasn't used to asking for much. I tried to laugh it off, but it came out thin. I'm not in a hurry. That earned me a longer glance. A testing one. Like she wanted to see if I'd flinch under the weight of it. I didn't. The silence settled again, heavier now. I shifted, my hand brushing the counter near hers. Not on purpose, or maybe a little too much on purpose. Our knuckles didn't touch, but the space between them was a spark. Her breath caught. Not loud, not obvious. But I heard it. Why are you really here? She asked, soft. I should have had an answer ready. Instead, I found myself staring at the faint shadow of her hand where it had rested on my arm. Her eyes narrowed slightly, curious, cautious. I opened my mouth, then froze at the sound of the front door unlocking. A key turning. The air in the room shifted again, sharper this time. Her gaze snapped toward the door, then back to me. The wineglass sat untouched between us, her hand hovering above the counter like she couldn't decide whether to reach for it, or for me. And me, I was suddenly caught between leaving and staying, both choices impossible now. The door closed again. Whoever had come and gone hadn't stepped inside, just dropped something off in the mailbox. But the echo left behind sharpened the room. We both stood still, either of us naming the fear that had flickered across her face. She was the first to move, sliding the glass of wine aside with a fingertip. Sorry, she said, though I didn't know what she was apologizing for. For touching me? For asking me to stay? For the silence that made it impossible not to feel what we weren't saying? I leaned back against the wall, hands shoved in my pockets. You don't need to be sorry. Her laugh was soft, bitter at the edges. I've got a habit of saying things I shouldn't. I didn't press her, but something in me wanted to. I wanted to know what else she thought she shouldn't say. Instead, I asked, What kind of habit? Her eyes flicked toward me, unreadable. The kind that doesn't end well. That should have been my cue to let it go. But I couldn't stop watching her, her shoulders drawn tight, her fingers tapping once against the counter before curling into her palm. She wasn't nearly as untouchable as she looked. I thought about what I knew of her. She lived alone, her husband gone years ago, no kids in the house anymore. People whispered about how she carried herself, composed, a little distant, the sort of woman who walked into a room and never seemed to need anyone. But in this quiet, I could see the cracks. You've been alone a while, I said carefully. She froze, then gave a slow shake of her head. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because they're true. The honesty landed heavy. She reached for her glass but didn't drink, only let her hand linger around the stem. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter. And you're too young to be wasting your time with me. There it was. The taboo, spoken aloud for the first time. The numbers, the perception, the gap wide enough for others to trip over. But I didn't feel young, not in the way she meant. Not standing here with her. I don't feel like I am, I said. She met my eyes for too long. Then she looked away, brushing past me toward the sofa. Her shoulder grazed mine barely, but it burned through the sleeve of my shirt. I sat down beside her before I could think better of it. Close enough that her perfume, subtle, clean, almost fading, wrapped around me. She sighed, leaning back, head tilted toward the ceiling. You remind me of someone I used to know. Someone good? Her lips twitched into the faintest smile. Someone I ruined things with. I wanted to ask more, but the way she said it, final, regretful, closed the door. So I stayed quiet. The silence returned, only this time it wasn't heavy. It was suspended, waiting. Her hand rested on the cushion between us, fingers brushing against mine when she shifted. Not accidental, not quite intentional. I didn't move away. Neither did she. The touch stayed, barely there, fragile as glass. But it was enough to make the air pulse with something that neither of us dared name. Her fingers still brushed against mine when the buzz of her phone shattered the silence. She flinched, snatching her hand back as if caught. The screen lit up on the table beside us. A message, name flashing bold enough for me to catch. A friend. Someone who might easily drop by, unannounced, like earlier. She grabbed the phone quickly, thumb hovering but not opening it. For a moment she just stared at the glow, then set it face down with a sharp little exhale. They don't stop, she muttered. Checking in? I asked. Her eyes cut to me, too fast. Something like that. I nodded, but the tension between us didn't loosen. If anything, it thickened. She shifted in her seat, too aware of how close we still were. I could see it in the way her knees angled, resisting but not moving away. I leaned back, pretending to relax, though my pulse hammered. If you need to answer, I don't. She interrupted too quickly, then bit her lip, realizing. Not right now. That slip was all it took to reel me back into her gravity. Silence. Again. Only now it had edges. My eyes kept dropping, her mouth, the hollow of her throat, the curve of her hand resting too near mine. I looked away, then back again. She caught me once, held my stare for a beat too long. Something flickered across her face, regret, want, both. I shouldn't have asked you to stay, she whispered. You did. My voice cracked a little, but I didn't look away. Her breath trembled as she let it out. She turned toward me more fully now, knees brushing. The small contact jolted through me like current. I wanted to close the gap. I almost did. My body leaned before my mind could catch up. Her head tilted, fractionally but enough. And then, the sound again. The rattle of the front gate outside. We froze. Both of us listening. Someone passing by? Or someone about to walk in? Her hand flew to my arm, fingers pressing firm this time, holding me in place. Not pulling closer, not pushing away, just anchoring me. Her nails dug lightly through my sleeve as we waited for the sound to fade. It did. Just footsteps receding into nothing. But her hand stayed. Slowly, she realized, and her grip loosened. She started to draw back. I caught her wrist before she could. Not hard, just enough to keep the warmth between us alive. She stared at me, eyes wide, lips parted. 1,000 thoughts flickered there: fear, desire, warning, surrender. I leaned in, close enough to feel her breath brush my cheek. She didn't move. Either of us spoke. The distance shrank until the only thing between us was hesitation itself. And still, no kiss. Because if it happened, we both knew it wouldn't stop there. So we stayed suspended in that impossible space, closer than ever, resisting and failing all at once. The air between us hadn't settled since that almost kiss. It clung, heavy and restless, every glance ricocheting into silence we couldn't outrun. I thought she'd pull away, put distance between us. Instead, she poured another glass of wine and sat back down, closer this time. As if daring herself. Her shoulder grazed mine again. Not accidental. I felt her warmth through the fabric, the weight of her presence pulling every nerve taut. I shouldn't. She started, then stopped. What? My voice came out too soft, too intent. Her eyes flicked toward me, then away. She let out a dry laugh. This. You. All of it. You don't know what you're doing. Maybe not. I leaned forward close enough that my words brushed her cheek. But I know what I want. Her head snapped toward me at that, sharp, like the words had broken something inside her. She searched my face, looking for hesitation, weakness. There wasn't any. You'll regret it, she whispered. Then let me. The silence that followed was alive, pulsing. Her breath grew uneven, lips parting as though to argue, but nothing came out. Instead, she lifted her hand, slow, unsure, and pushed my hair back from my forehead. Her fingers lingered against my temple longer than they needed to, tracing down, skimming the line of my jaw before retreating. It wasn't motherly. It wasn't casual. It was dangerous. I caught her wrist gently, holding it in place. She didn't fight me. I can't keep looking at you like this, I said. Her pulse thrummed against my thumb. She closed her eyes for half a second, as if bracing herself. When she opened them again, the fight was gone. She leaned into me. Not all at once, but enough, her forehead brushing mine, her hand resting against my chest like she needed something steady. I've tried to ignore it, she murmured, so close I felt each word against my skin. God, I have. But you don't make it easy. Good, I breathed. Her laugh came out jagged, trembling. She pressed her lips together, shaking her head, yet her body stayed against mine. Every detail etched itself into me, the faint tremor in her hand, the warmth of her breath ghosting over my mouth, the delicate scent of her skin so close it blurred every thought. I tilted forward, only a breath away now. Tell me to stop, I whispered. She didn't. Instead, her fingers curled into my shirt, pulling me just slightly closer. The world narrowed to that touch, that breath, that final inch left between us. And then, a sharp knock at the door. We both froze. Her eyes flew wide, panic flashing hard. The knock came again, louder this time. She jerked back just enough to break the spell, but her hand still fisted in my shirt, unwilling to let go completely. We were caught, breathless, teetering on the edge of no return. The knock faded into silence, unanswered. Whoever it was must have left, but the echo of it stayed lodged in the room. She finally let go of my shirt, smoothing it like she hadn't been clinging to me seconds ago. Her hand trembled. She folded her arms across her chest, hiding it. You should go, she said. The firmness in her voice didn't match the look in her eyes. I stayed seated. Is that what you want? Her breath caught. She turned from me, pacing toward the counter. It's what's smart. Smart. The word landed flat. Nothing about this felt smart. I stood slowly, giving her space but not leaving. What aren't you telling me? She stiffened at that. Too much. My question had hit something. I stepped closer. That knock, were you expecting someone? Her laugh was brittle. No. A pause. Then softer. But someone might have seen your car. That hadn't occurred to me, not fully. The street outside was too exposed, her driveway too obvious. She turned back, arms still crossed like armor. People talk. About you. About anyone. About me more than most. Her mouth curved into something bitter. 46 and divorced. Alone. If they see a 22-year-old boy walking out of my house late at night, boy? I cut in. Her lips parted, then pressed shut. She'd slipped, and we both knew it. I closed the gap between us. Not touching, yet, but close enough she had to tilt her chin up to meet my eyes. That's not what you see when you look at me. Her breath stuttered. She didn't deny it. The silence between us surged again. Her shoulders softened, just a fraction, and then she whispered, You remind me of him. That stopped me. Who? Her eyes glistened, though no tears fell. The one I pushed away. The one I shouldn't have. The regret in her voice cut deeper than I expected. Whoever he was, she still carried him with her. And I wasn't sure if I was filling his space or breaking it open wider. I reached up, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. My fingers lingered at her temple, tracing down to her jaw before I dropped my hand. Her skin warmed under the brief touch. She didn't move. Only whispered, This isn't safe. Neither is pretending. The words hung there. Her arms finally fell from her chest, leaving her bare, unguarded. She brushed past me on her way to the sofa, so close her hip grazed mine. Even that small touch felt electric. I followed, stopping just behind her. She didn't turn, but her breathing gave her away, shallow, uneven, waiting. Finally she said, If we do this, nothing will be the same. I leaned close, my voice low against her ear. Maybe that's the point. She closed her eyes at that, and for the first time, she didn't step away. She stayed facing forward, eyes closed, shoulders trembling just enough for me to see it. I stood behind her, so close I could feel the warmth of her body radiating through the air between us. Neither of us moved. Neither of us dared. Finally, she whispered, Say it. Say what you want. Her voice cracked on the last word. I leaned closer, my lips almost brushing her ear. You. Her breath faltered, chest rising faster. She turned then, slowly, as if fighting gravity. Our faces were inches apart. Close enough that if either of us leaned a fraction, the silence would break into something irreversible. This is wrong, she murmured, though her hand lifted anyway, resting lightly against my chest. The contact was so small, but it scattered every thought in my head. Then stop me, I said. Her fingers curled into my shirt instead. We stood like that, suspended, the room shrinking until it was only us. I couldn't look anywhere but at her, the line of her mouth, the tension in her jaw, the way her eyes searched mine like she was trying to read the end before it was written. Her other hand lifted, hesitant, brushing my cheek. The touch was barely there, a tremor more than a caress, but it undid me. I caught her wrist and pressed her palm flat against my face, closing my eyes for a second just to feel it. She drew in a sharp breath, then whispered, If we cross this line, I can't take it back. I opened my eyes. Neither can I. We held there, one heartbeat, then another. My hand slid to her waist, pulling her closer, not all the way, not yet, just enough to let her feel how little space was left. Her body leaned into mine before she could stop it. The decision was already written in the way her lips parted, the way her eyes flicked to my mouth and back again. "I've wanted this longer than I should admit," she confessed, the words tumbling out like they'd been caged for years. The honesty struck hard. My pulse roared in my ears. "So have I." The distance collapsed. Our foreheads touched, breath mingling, both of us shaking with the weight of it. My hands trembled where they held her. She clutched me tighter, no longer careful, no longer guarding herself. We didn't kiss. Not yet. That last sliver of restraint held us trembling on the edge, but everything else broke. In that closeness, her hand at my chest, my arms circling her, our breaths tangled, I knew she understood me, and I understood her. The fear, the longing, the years of regret, the hunger neither of us had dared name. We saw each other fully, finally. No more pretending doubt, we stayed like that, pressed into the stillness, both waiting for the other to flinch. Neither of us did. My forehead rested against hers, our breaths uneven, our hands clinging like we'd been holding back for years instead of hours. She was the first to speak, voice low and rough. "We can't ignore what this is." It wasn't a warning this time. It sounded closer to surrender. I nodded, pulling back just enough to see her face. The lines I'd noticed before, the ones she hid with practiced poise, were softened now. Not flaws, but proof she'd lived through more than I could imagine. Proof she'd earned the right to want something, even if it didn't make sense on paper. "I don't care what people think," I said. The words came easier than I expected. Her eyes flickered with doubt, but she didn't argue. Instead, she slid her hand into mine, tentative at first. When I didn't let go, when I laced our fingers together, her shoulders finally relaxed. We sank down onto the sofa side by side. The storm that had rattled the night, the knock, the fear, the hesitation, quieted. She leaned against me, her head finding its place on my shoulder. My arm curled around her, instinctive, like it belonged there. "I've spent too long choosing safe," she admitted. "And it left me, here. Alone. Watching life happen to everyone else." I tightened my grip on her hand. "You're not alone now." The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was warm, like the room itself had shifted with us. Her body softened into mine, her breathing slowing to match my own. I pressed a kiss to her forehead, simple, unhurried. She closed her eyes at the touch, letting out a breath that sounded like release. For the first time tonight, nothing felt wrong. The age gap, the whispers that might follow, the risks, they were still there, but smaller now. What mattered was the way she fit against me, the way her hand clung tighter when I tried to adjust, the way her lips curved into a smile she didn't try to hide. We didn't need to say it out loud. It was there in every small movement, the brush of her thumb against mine, the weight of her leaning into me, the quiet promise that whatever came next, we'd face it together. Not perfect. Not easy. But real. Her voice broke the silence one last time, soft, almost teasing. "You really were leaving, weren't you?" I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Not anymore." She laughed, light, unguarded, the kind of laugh that made my chest ache in the best way. And I knew then, this wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?